Yes, these people here, they told me when you come to speak to me, I ask you the most difficult questions.
I
That's
thought I had friends here.
no, they told me to ask you the most difficult questions that they cannot ask.
With friends like this, do I need enemies? No. But let's see how we sail on this.
Awesome. Thank you so much first for honoring our invitation to come and have a conversation with us. And this is really just to get to understand where government is, and what the vision is, where the mindset is, where the drive and the vision of government is around digital transformation. But before we even go there, maybe there's some people who maybe don't know you. So maybe you can just introduce yourself and tell them what to do.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Good morning, all. My name is Mercy Wanjao. I'm the Secretary to Cabinet, Republic of Kenya. By training, I'm a lawyer, and I spent a very significant part of my career in the technology sector. So coming into this conversation is a real pleasure and a connector to something that I'm very passionate about, and a concept whose time has come, and one that has been embraced by this administration to drive priorities, to drive Kenyans towards a higher standard of living, higher expectations, and unlocking possibilities for Kenyans.
Awesome. Mercy worked at CA, and I think that was the time that CA was really fundamental in terms of the growth of the sector. So we truly appreciate your work at CA. Yeah, maybe people haven't told you, so I'm telling you now.
Thank you, Harry.
Yeah. So just quickly, how do you describe the government's vision on digital transformation?
Great. That's a good place to start because government operates in perpetuity and is always a build-up. And over the last 10, 15 years, the focus on technology has been very, very targeted, which brings me to the present time where the fifth administration came in with a manifesto that is very clear on the central role of digital in the delivery of services and the delivery of development. One of the very obvious commitments was the uploading of 5,000 services by June 30th last year. That was in numbers and it was clear, it was written. And you may ask, what is the significance of 5,000? But the context is that in January 2023, Kenya had 397 services. So an ambition to scale up to 5,000 was by no means, really very significant in terms of the leap and the growth. On 30th of June, we had 5,087 services. So the target was met and exceeded. And the effect, the impact was so heartwarming that a commitment was made to upload 100%. Now, that was official pressure at that point because remember, it's a moving target. You don't really know what the end goal would be. That end goal can only be achieved based on your dreams, your creativity, and your aspirations. As we speak, we're at about 20,800 services. What does this mean in terms of the everyday living for a Kenyan? What it means is that you're able to interact with government services with ease, efficiently, from where you are, in a timely manner, and in a dignifying manner. Because we all know the story of going into a government office, going in today, you find the officer is not there, or a critical player in that approval process has stepped out of the office. Come tomorrow, come the next day, 6 months later, you still don't have the service. And it pushes you to the point where you are now in a space of giving incentives, bribery, and corruption in order to access the service. So this is, I think, tries to paint the picture of the kind of platform that is being created for citizens to feel and engage with their government for value. And this is whether you're in country or whether you're outside, and any other who would be engaging, even investors, on this platform. That's a high ambition, if you ask me. If I could paint it in color, in a canvas, I think it would be bold and bright like the colors we see here, very robust and open to reach out to possibilities.
So how do you? Because I think I love that, and I like that we have all these services online. But how do you? Because you see, I know different ministries, departments, and agencies at different levels of technology maturity and all. So how do you make sure that all the services that are online are of same quality? They have the best UI, UX. You understand what I mean? So how do you do that?
Yes, allow me to get philosophical here.
Okay.
Because in an ideal world, you'd all want to start at the start line together and finish together. But that's not real. And, in fact, it doesn't manifest that way in real life. If you just open your palms, everybody just open your palms. Are the fingers the same size? Which finger is the least useful? Which one is the most useful?
All of them.
Because each of them has a function. Each of them has a function, and even the shortest one, the pinky, short as it is, has a role that it performs that the thumb cannot do it, right? So this is the analogy I'd like to bring into government services. Ministries have different scopes, they have different mandates, and I would want to view them like the fingers on my hand. So because of those, there are those who will arrive faster, there are those who will arrive later because of the complexity and just a difference of operation. Some ministries have mandates that are truly devolved, so that for a ministry to say it has a full portfolio of services, it is services from national all the way to the county. But for the ones that operate fairly at the national level, it's about achieving within the national scope without the density at the county level. So that's how we arrive in different shapes, in different sizes, but the goal is clear as to where it is we are headed. Also, some ministries, perhaps by virtue of their size and the mandate, are very manual. They're very manual, so that you will find that services have been put online on eCitizen, but for you to receive that service, the back end is as manual as it can get. So in a sense, you'd say is it digital analog? Kind of, it's a mix. It's a digital analog space, which is a space that we are actually going to address in the next phase we are going into, to ensure that any service that is on eCitizen is actually enabled even in the back end. But of course, there are other ministries where this is working in a fantastic way. But the strategic thrust, ultimately, is that all government services will be offered online. They should have the same look, touch, feel, because one government, one brand, one experience. And this is what we want to work towards. So if I would sort of try and picture this, in the past, you walked into a ministry, you had to leave your home, get into transport, come to town, go to a ministry. Today, you do it in your home. But the reality is that not every Kenyan can do that. They may lack the device, they do not have the skill set to do it, or just the fluency to engage. So enter the Huduma centers that provide a platform where you can go and engage with this kind of services. This is where we are right now, and not all services are there. So it's very progressive. And I would want us to look at this very progressive. There are hitches along the way. You recall, I think last year there was an outcry on passports. It was just a nightmare to get a passport, and people missed jobs, they missed opportunities because of passports. But guess what? Right now, as we speak, there are 95,000 passports done, ready, and collected. Let's talk about that. How is it that now the passports are not collected and they are ready? So it really just shows that even for us as the Kenyan citizen, we need to have a conversation each with themselves to sharpen your ambition on how do you want to engage with government and pave that path, because government is able to deliver, but it can only deliver to the extent of what it is you would want it to deliver.
So, just piggybacking on that, and it's impressive what government has done in a very short time. But do you feel like the entire workforce, the entire workforce in government understands that vision?
I would say yes and no. Because a vision is a long-term goal, is a long-term aspirations, and it's about carrying others along. So I think this places government, and in particular, those who are fluent, like those who are gathered here because you're fluent, you appreciate the issue, you understand the issue, to engage the others, even as government explores formal platforms of training and capacity building to do it. At cabinet level, we already began with the engagement on the cyberspace and cyber security and what it means to protect yourself. And soon we will be moving into other aspects of privacy, data governance, and the like. So at the strategic level, we've already commenced that conversation in bite size, so that it's not really about telling you, it's about giving you information that you need to use, that you need to apply. Now, going into the general staff, the public service staff, this is a commitment, and there are plans laid out to ensure that there is training provided at the various levels, because you do appreciate that the fight is one of trust and confidence. The fight on safeguarding data and privacy. And this is you and me and others who will enable. So to uphold this, to safeguard this, the measures of cyber hygiene, the fluency on what it means to protect oneself remains a constant training. Those of you who are in my age group, when we were in university, we did social ethics and foundations, right? And we did it every semester. I think we need to get into a constant reflection on what the cyberspace digital transformation means, what is the role of the individual, what is the expectation that they give back, so that together we hold hands, because you're only as strong as the weakest within that ecosystem.
Okay. So switching gears a bit, I would imagine, I cannot imagine that this was easy to do. Having all those services in there and getting people to upload the services, make sure that they work. So what are the key challenges to even doing that?
Okay. I think it presents in many facets, because usually when we think of digital transformation, we think of the technical side, the solution side, which let me call it the hard side for the purposes of this conversation. But what I have come to learn is that the hard side is actually the easier side, because once you pave the path, the roadmap of where you're going and what you're seeking to deliver, it's clear. This is the road from Nairobi to Machakos. That's very clear. But now, let's look at the people who will drive that value. What is normally called the soft side. I think the soft side is actually the hard side. That soft side needs to be strategically reoriented to support, because without the people, I think the solution perhaps matters not. And let me paint it for you. In a typical government transaction or approval, you walk into a government office, there is a security at the door who vets you and maybe sometimes extracts from the person seeking the service. Then they go into the department, they initiate the process, they make the payment, and they are told that they need to go through 5 approvals. Somebody to stamp, another one to sign, another one to tick and reflect it on the register, another one to do something before you finally get this. Remember, all these people are not gathered as we are today here, so that I come and start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, done. They're in different floors. They have different schedules. Some are on leave, others are sick or whatever. So it really painted a picture where it took a lot of time, a lot of harassment to get this going. Now, when you say that you're onboarding this service online, and the service charter commitment is for 7 days delivery, what you're actually saying is that some of these things, the tick, the stamp, the signature, that gave me, you, and others the place of being, the power, and the position, is that they are going. You're also saying that when the service is being obtained at a Huduma center, is that suddenly I become faceless. And yet I needed to meet you to show you how I'm really helping you so that I extract.
Yeah.
All this goes. How do you take these people along, give comfort, assure them, because there's no loss of jobs, but truly there's a desire to drive value, that you would convert that interaction with those individuals to value driving to enable that service. That even as we move to the next season, the digestion of the data, the analytics will drive true, compelling insights that will take a Kenyan to a new level, a new world. So this, I think, for me, actually has been the real reckoning, the people side. The people side. I don't want to call it resistance, because resistance might be a hard word. Perhaps the issue is the inclusion, the carrying along everybody, that they would see the dream in color, and actually be persuaded that that dream resonates with them enough to support that dream. Because without the people, really the solution matters not.
Very interesting. Without the people, the solution doesn't matter. Awesome. So one of the threads of conversations that have been happening here is the collaboration between government and the private sector. What's your take on this? Do you think it's working? Is it working? Can it be improved? Because I'm sure you've interacted with private sector in your day-to-day.
Yes, indeed, the spirit of partnership and collaboration cannot be overemphasized. And in fact, some research was done. I just forget the firm. Some research was done to establish the credibility and the believability of government digitization efforts worldwide. And Priska, remind me the name of the research firm. Edelman. I need to sound, very Edelman. Edelman is an international research firm, and it established that worldwide, where private sector engages alongside government for digital transformation efforts, credibility, believability, trust goes up. Where government tries to do it themselves, mimi kivyangu, credibility, down, down, down. So I think it's a conversation that we get in knowing that we need each other. And it's actually not about playing big brother and small brother or small sister and big sister. It's actually about walking side by side, because government has what it brings to the table. Private sector equally has what it brings to the table. And when I talk private sector here, could be private sector tech industry, the academic, the civil society, the various users and the various use cases, so that together you're then able to package the best of what it is that you have. Remember that often, I think in Kenya, you have actually packaged things for the world, which I think you really need to clap for yourselves, because this has been a new emerging recognition for Kenya, that boldness, that courage to actually sit in a room, collaborate, and come out with a solution. And then we ask, how did we survive without this thing? I think that was the question with M-Pesa a couple of years ago. And we really just must tighten these partnerships and elevate them. Often I wonder, if I hadn't been in government this long, how would I engage with government? Because government is looked at as the big one animal, monolithic,
Yeah.
sometimes does not appreciate, is insular. And I think that's a conversation, a continuing conversation for the private sector to drive, because they are the ones with the experience. Even we as government, as we try to think, are we really making it enabling enough? At the end of the day, we're still bureaucrats. We're not in the trench doing business. I do appreciate that. So that it really is the space for the private sector to really come and say, I would appreciate if you do 1, 2, 3 things. It might actually be possible, but had not been seen from the government side of things.
Interesting. Because I think, there's always there's a trust deficit. Sometimes I feel like the trust deficit.
I like to call it creative tension.
Creative tension between the private sector and government.
We are usually driving in the same direction.
Yeah.
It's just that the manner in which we are going there might be different. Some are in bicycles, others are in vehicles, others are walking. So obviously it generates into what you call a creative, what you call trust deficit, because then the expectation levels are different. But ultimately, how can we turn this kind of tension? Let me call it tension, because of the different parameters, the different expectations. How can we nurture them towards something that is generally mutually understood? And I believe it is possible, because we are seeing it on eCitizen. We are seeing it. We have been doing soft calls for additional services where we are saying, government has given you these services, 20,000 and something services. But the goal and the standard is customer delight, the gold standard. And the gold standard is, this is what I want from government, and government give it to me. And it's amazing some of the responses that you receive, and you hear the request, and you realize it is a request that you could offer. But somehow, government was just not offering the service. So let's take advantage of that space of creative tension to build on it and see what is possible, because it's in our hands.
I like that. Yeah. I like that. Creative tension. Ben, did you hear that? So coming back to what could happen, if you did a stargazing exercise, where do you see the opportunities where both government, private sector, and even civil society can play to support the efforts of government in digital transformation?
I think I would sum it in one word: sustainability. To achieve sustainability in any ecosystem, it requires all of us at the table. Let me start with the vulnerable, the persons with disabilities. In this digital ecosystem, and in the spirit of the Constitution that everybody deserves to engage and access in equal measure, regardless of their disability, the one question I would ask the private sector is, in the tools that you have developed in your digital transformation journey, are they adjusted for persons with disability? I don't say that as a Kenyan, but it is a global standard. It is the right thing to do, because we also do not want to create a situation that leads to a society where only some arrive and others do not. So last year we audited the eCitizen platform because it had services loaded on, but no adjustments for persons with disability. And we had the benefit of support from the British government, and they supported that exercise, and we were able to adjust it for persons with disability in Kenya. But truth be told, as a lawyer, I just feared that we would be, led to litigation on that issue, and we would lose. So it was a mitigation strategy to ensure that we don't get there. But what we did not know as the team that was working on this is that we actually set a standard for Africa. I didn't personally know it until about 6 weeks ago, when there was a conference here in Nairobi preparing for the Global Disability Summit next year in Germany, and they actually showcased eCitizen.
Wow.
They showcased eCitizen and the State House website, because those are the two websites we gave them to look at and said, as a citizen in this country, I must be able to access the main gateway to government, which is the State House website, because you can go to every other ministry through that. Then eCitizen for services that are centric to the individual. So before 45 countries, this young man who is a person living with disability took us all through the process of applying for his birth certificate, applying for his passport. I mean, that really made my day, that actually this was enabled. This is a place that private sector can actually commit and decide to set that standard for the sake of everybody. When we go into platforms and technologies, the issue of climate change obviously rears its head. For the solution providers, the developers, the innovators, how is it that you ensure the solutions that you put in place actually promote sustainability? You can see the unique niche spaces that private sector can actually play into. And I don't even pretend to know what the full extent of sustainability in a digitally transformed society can look like. But I normally say that for us to feel the power of digital in Kenya, it must touch the daily life of a Kenyan. Agriculture really speaks to that. The day that, that lady, that gentleman is able to see the role that technology has played in boosting their produce, in informing them on how to better do their activity that has been done for centuries, but it has led to a boost, then we will begin to say that we are arriving, and we are arriving in style. Because this is what digital transformation should do, so that we, in effect, begin to see the direct correlation of achieving some of the priorities in this administration, creating jobs, increasing the tax base, broadening the space for forex, eradicating hunger. This is why I'm emphasizing on agriculture as an example. What are the use cases? That is now a private sector space. What are the use cases that will drive a compelling case to actually solve some of these priorities? And I think maybe we should get to a point where we say that we solve them for good. For how long will we discuss about people dying of hunger? And at the same time, in a country where we're innovating for the world? I pose that question because maybe a time needs to come, given the kind of capabilities and functionalities that we have, that we actually draw the line on some of these conversations, because it opens up the space for new, elevating conversations.
Okay. So we have 1 minute. I'm happy to take only one question from the audience. One. If you have a burning question. Oh, those are many hands. No, Ben, I'm not going to give you an opportunity. Yes, at the back there. Here, Riz, on this side. Please state your name, the organization you work for, so that we can trace you back if you ask a hard question.
Yeah, it's very important, tracing. It's important. I think he was going to ask a hard question. So the mic is collaborating with me.
Hi. Thank you, Harry. Thank you, CS, for the very informative discussion. My name is Nderi Nduma. I come from the Office of the Government Spokesperson. I deal with digital new media at the office of the government spokesperson. What we do is to amplify what government speaks on. My question is this, because it's something that we deal with on a daily basis, and it's how do I put it? How do we make sure that as we progress, as we continue to create this movement and this change and this growth, that we're not speaking to ourselves, that we have some form of accountability, so that really when we talk about these improvements, these 20,000 services, that there's actually tangible impact. I'll leave it there because I don't want to make it complicated, but thank you very much.
He should be answering that question.
I thought so.
Okay, but anyway.
We collaborate. We're in the same team. And I like that he's asking and pushing for accountability and transparency against what it is we have said. Now, it's good to also speak about insights that are clear to the eye. And one of the signs that demonstrates that e-citizen and the diversity of services is working is the increase of revenue. Last year, government was collecting 40 to 60 million per day on e-citizen, on the 397 services. Today, we are between 500 and 700 million per day. That already is a demonstration of utility of the service. And in December last year, on December 20th, to be specific, we collected 1 billion a day. But there's an explanation. The private sector goes on holiday for 1 month, so they prepaid. And we were able to see that kind of movement. That tells me something, aside from the revenue, is that Kenyans had been maybe apathetic, or they did not know about certain services, and they're now going for these services because those revenues only generate from pay per use. And this is a good thing. And more needs to be told about them, because truth be told, we all perhaps know 20 or 30 services on e-citizen. There is need to elevate, and that's the next phase that we are going to, so that we will be able to explain the services that government has, as we then ask back, is there something more that you would like to be put on this platform, that you would utilize, that would improve the quality of your engagement and experience with government and enable you to unlock your potentials and your business or whatever else it is you would want to do. I think it's a good space.
Excellent. So I just want you to say one thing that these ladies and gentlemen who mostly work within the same organization you work for, what you would want them to, when they leave here, what do they go and do in the organization?
Okay. Well, let me actually thank you that you actually brought us as colleagues to have this conversation, because it's a necessary conversation and one that needs to be revisited often. What I would say is that in the past, we recognize heroes. And often these are heroes at war, heroes who did some huge thing that emancipated people, and so we call them heroes. Do you realize that today, in a digital society, actually you ICT practitioners are heroes? You are the heroes of the day, because it is through you that you will reimagine for us what this digital society looks like. We may have a sense of what it is, but we may not be fluent enough to understand what the functionalities can be. And we may be imagining things as fantastic, but we are just scratching on the top because of lack of knowledge. This, very fortunately for people like us, is that you are there. You are the experts. You have the intrinsic knowledge that will help us to reimagine and power the digital society. I often wonder, in a society like Kenya, which is heavily invested in cooperative societies, and we know the kind of governance challenges that exist in cooperatives, what does it mean if we talk about digital transformation in the cooperative sector, irregardless whether it's milk, leather, coffee, tea. This is the challenge I throw back to you as my colleagues to really get in. You know that word we used to say, taimajini. This is what taimajini. What would it be that you really go in there and unlock the full digital capabilities for that common Kenyan? It will lead to profits, higher dividends, better methods, but this really is in your hands as the ICT professionals, the experts in the field. We already recognize that you're heroes and you have brought us so far, but we know that you can even take us far in this new reimagined possibility. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much, Amos. That was really good. I think you need to do better.